Hey there, my name is Derek. This is Chocolate Seed Tech. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. Also, if this is your first time, um, subscribe, hit the notification button. I'm going to be making a lot of videos for, especially for those who are looking to get started in web development or development in general. I'm going to have a lot of content coming forth. So if you're interested, if you like what's happening, click the like button so that obviously the channel can grow, but also so you can get notified whenever new video comes out. So today I'm going to actually be talking about some of the things you should be looking forward to uh, as a developer in general. Although this might be get a little more towards those looking to do web development, I don't think it's going to be too far off. Some of the advice I'm going to give is going to pretty much be good enough, regardless of what you're looking to do, whether you're doing gaming, I don't know, machine learning or whatever. Whatever it is, it's not going to make too much of a difference because I think the advice can carry on regardless of which way you're looking to go. So I have a little presentation, so we're going to jump into the presentation. Again, let me know if you like this kind of content. I can put more of those kind of things out. The conversation is going to be a bit more geared towards web development, only because I know a lot of people who ask me questions about getting involved with programming in general. A lot of the questions were sort of geared towards web, so that's why I sort of put this together. This is to help those who ask me a lot of different questions. So to me, this is probably one of the questions that kept coming up the most. Like, what do I need to know? How much of this do I need to know? I learned. Someone told me that I have to learn Python and I have to learn this and I have to learn that and I need to learn this and that. And granted, you are going to need to learn a lot of different things. But first, you need to keep in mind you do not need to know everything from day one. This is such a big misconception, or at least a misunderstanding for those who are looking to get into tech because they see something or they might be watching a video and all of a sudden a person is throwing out npm this, install that, and Node.js this, and next thing you know, we got it's like we start talking about Python, and next thing you know, they're moving on to talking about Django, and it just keeps going and going. And next thing you know, they say, oh yeah, let's do it in React, and oh no, let's do Vue.js. Oh no, next thing you know, that's uh, I don't know. Well, probably not Amber.js, at least not these days, but Svelte or whatever. Some front end is being mentioned, or if we're talking about back end, maybe it's a mention of Elixir, there's .NET Core, there's this, and it just goes on and on and on. And even within those individual languages and frameworks and libraries, there's also so much to learn. But fear not, you do not have to know everything. That's just not it. Um, what I will say though is that as you begin with a little bit of knowledge that you may have, even if you go through, I don't know, boot camp, maybe you graduating, or maybe you took a course or something like that, and or maybe you self-taught. Um, when you're done, you're never done. You're never gonna know everything. So keep that in mind. You don't need to know everything ever. There is such a place called Stack Overflows where essentially all developers get together. Um, one one way or the other. You're gonna end up googling for an issue, and most likely, more than not, you're gonna end up on Stack Overflow, and that's just what's gonna happen. So keep that in mind. You're not gonna need to know every single piece of thing. Again, Google is your friend. In the beginning, you're going to be doing a lot of Googling because simply you may not know what you need to do. And also, don't ever try to reinvent something that's already there. Now, unless you're doing it just purely for the sake of relearning something, right? You're gonna end up on people's blogs. Some people helping you to explain certain things here and there. So just keep that in mind. You don't need to know everything from the get go. And that's just what it is. Right. So essentially, this is going to be you, right? You're working on some sort of problem. It comes up that you need to, let's just make this up. You need to do a mail in let's say for instance Django or whatever, right? How to send mail in Django. Because you gotta type Django correctly if you want to get results for it too. Right. So as I mentioned, um, you're gonna get some sort of result for one is gonna be Stack Overflow. I'm surprised it was in top answer or top. But as you can see, as I mentioned before, you're gonna end up on somebody's blog. Um, so the reality is, don't worry about trying to know everything from get go. I know some of the build tools in the beginning can get a little bit difficult, or they can seem like a lot of work and a lot of stuff to know. In the future videos, I'm actually going to cover some build tools like setting up um, things like setting up Webpack and things of that nature. So, but this is just to sort of let you know you don't have to know everything from the beginning, right? My next big advice would be basically read the docs. There are a lot of languages, libraries, whatever, that do a really great job of putting out some really good documentation. And you just saw a bit of it not too long ago. One of my absolute favorite documentation is probably Django's. I've been looking at this since one point something. I don't know when. And they have never failed me in terms of like giving you almost all the answers that you need. And in fact, if anyone were to ask me, how do I begin Django tutorial? If assuming you already know, a bit of Python, I would say go straight to Django's website, as you can see here, and just begin. They are really, really incredible in terms of the amount of work they put towards it. Another one that I found really good was Vue.js. I think they do a really good job there. They make get Vue already as it's a framework that is a lot easier to get going compared to say something like React and definitely Angular, at least Angular 2 plus anyway. Um, but I would say they did an incredible job with pretty much any question that you have. And again, if you wanted to go through their tutorial, if you're looking to get into, if you know JavaScript, and that's another video I'm going to be putting out later on, getting people back to the basics to learn JavaScript and stuff like that. But that's for another time. So that's that. Another spot that I think does really good is .NET. Believe it or not, they're really, really specifically .NET Core. Um, in the past, Microsoft, especially with .NET, framework, they were terrible with their keeping up with their links. You go back, you find a issue, you'd be excited because you did a search and then you found the issue, right? And you click on it, and the link is broken. That has not been the case with .NET Core and pretty much things associated with it. It's really, really good. Their documentation is incredible. Almost anything you're looking for, you're gonna find it here. So if you're a .NET person or you're looking to get into C Sharp, and I may be putting out a video for C Sharp sometime in the video, sometimes in the future. um, so look forward for that. Especially if you have any interest, just let me know. Put a message in the comment or hit me up on social media. Let me know you're interested in something like that. So yeah, there are really, so basically read the damn docs. They're really good for a lot of libraries and frameworks. So you've decided you want to be in our case for this example, a web developer, and you go online, you read some blog or whatever you did, and it says, oh, go ahead and learn, I don't know, Python or whatever it wants you to learn. What I want you to understand is if you're looking to do web, you must know HTML and CSS at the bare minimum. Um, I realize that there are frameworks now, like obviously Bootstrap, which has been around for, I shouldn't say now because it's been around forever. Uh, but things like that make your life a little bit easier. But the reality is you need to know CSS. Oftentimes I see a lot of people with issues and they'll have questions, and a lot of it's just because they have lack of basic knowledge on CSS. Same with even on some levels, HTML really. Um, so really get back to the basics. In fact, I'm actually planning several videos in the future that will just talk about getting back to the basics for HTML, CSS, and also JavaScript as well. Um, once you have the core, which is the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the next thing you probably want to do is you want to start looking at, look for something that's in your area. So it's pretty simple, right? You pull up Indeed or whatever job site you have. Don't go on Monster. Does Monster even still exist? Anyway, yeah. So for me, for instance, I'm in the DC area, right? So if I'm looking for a job, let's say I want to do Python, right? So I come in this general area. I'm looking for this, in the DC metro area for Python. What is my job perspective looking like, right? There's 3,600 jobs. So that means that for my particular area, now granted, some of these may not necessarily be just for Python. It could be, just coming up because they have Pythons written somewhere. But anyway, um, it just tells me that there's quite a lot of jobs in this area for it, right? So if I look at that and I look for something like, let's say, closure, right? Yeah, right. There are about 28 jobs, right? Now, although I like closure and I think it's a great little language, it's fun to play with, and it's not by fun. I don't mean like it's just a toy language. It's an incredible language. But the reality is, in this area, there are 28 jobs for it. So if you are looking to break into it and you're not, you know, creating your own company and starting your own startup and picking your own language, I would say this is a terrible thing to do to yourself, right? You should go for something like what we just saw, which in this case was Python or even C sharp, right? So 1,800 jobs with C sharp. If you just pull in the language.net, 1,800 and so on and so forth. But it should sort of give you an idea that in this general area, what sort of rules, right? And as you can see, Python and Java are essentially king, and part of it is due to well, whatever. That's not important. So just keep that in mind. So I would say if when you're looking for your first language, think about stuff like this because if you're looking for a job, clearly in this metro area, Python and you know Java wins, right? The next thing you want to do is you want to pick a project. Now this one is a little tough because what's going to happen is you sort of trying to build up your not only build up your portfolio but also learn. And the way to increase your learning is to basically do more. It's just simple as that. You got to write code. You got to write a lot of code, lots and lots of code. You got to write lots of code, make lots of mistakes, ask lots of questions. And the way to do that is by picking a project. It's not by watching a whole bunch of videos. As nice as that may seem, and the reality is when you're sitting there watching video, you're not really soaking anything in. You think you are, but when it comes down to open up the terminal, you have no idea what you just finished. You have no idea what you just finished learning. So I would say pick a project. Now don't do the usual project that everybody goes ahead and does, right? Pick something different. Pick something that's worthwhile to you. Um, and what I mean by that is don't do the same thing everybody does. Don't try to pick, I don't know, to do list or something silly, right? Pick something that's actually meaningful to you. Don't pick something that's too difficult because that means you might quit and really not get anywhere. Also, don't pick something that is too easy because you might get bored and lose your attention very quickly. What I will say is that try to find something that can potentially bring meaning to you, right? Or if not, maybe not you, someone immediately around you. So let's say, for instance, you have a family member that has diabetes, right? Think of something that you can create that can make that person's life somewhat easier. So, for instance, I don't know, diabetic recipe app, right? And this can be a mobile app or it can be it can be a web app, doesn't really matter. Um, regardless of which one you pick, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn how to potentially do authentication so that maybe the person is the only one that can sign in. And maybe they can, edit and update the recipes. I mean, this all sounds easy, but the reality is, if you were to do all this, that you can learn a lot from it. Think about how to deploy it, right? So maybe you might deploy it to Azure. Azure has free tiers, so you deploy it to I don't know Heroku or one of DigitalOcean's $5 droplets or whatever, right? But all those, as I'm saying it seems like it's, oh, that seems pretty easy. But reality is, if you sat down and plan it out, that can be something that can take you for weeks and potentially months, especially if you're new to this. So the key thing here is pick something that's meaningful. Learn Git. You need to learn some sort of source control because you're not going to keep your code on your box, because just don't do that. In fact, you can check out one of my other videos about learning Git if you're new to Git in general. So yeah, learn Git. Learn some other non so-called non-dev stuff. Although now they sort of creeped into each other. By this I mean DevOps. And it really doesn't matter which one, whether it's Azure, AWS, DigitalOcean. The reality is you're going to learn a lot, and that's really going to contribute to your growth in general. Right? And of course, these days too, Docker, right? If you wanted to sort of have an idea of what is hot or what you need to learn, there is a GitHub page that sort of keeps track of what they call it essentially the roadmap, right? Right. So this is the web developer roadmap. And as you can see, if you were to simply come on here for the first time, if you wanted to learn how to become a web developer, you know, as time in 2021 or 2020, and someone sent you to this page, you probably go bananas. You just say, "I forget it. This is not for me." But like I said, going back to our first conversation, you do not need to know everything at all. That's just not how it works, right? You can learn as you go. That's just, and reality is that's what it's going to be. No one knows everything about development in general. But so this is the developers roadmap. I'll let you go. Here's the link. Obviously, go take a look at it yourself. I'm not going to go over this because I think there's probably a whole bunch of people that's covered this throughout 2020 as this comes out yearly, obviously. But if you are interested in me going over some of these and explaining what those individual items are, just let me know in the comment section. I can come back and make that another video. And that's it. So if you find this sort of content helpful, just let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know. I can make a video about stuff like this going forward. That's going to be it. If you have any questions, again, let me know. Social media stuff is going to be on the bottom. Just hit me up. Um, yeah. See you next time. Peace.